Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're doing a little bit of a different thing. Instead of a review, I think we're doing a ranking. As you can tell by the title, I rank my Nick Cutter books. Um, like my opinion matters, but I do want to throw my hat in the ring and just kind of give my own personal connections to these books and what they mean to me and why I have them in the ranking. However, I do want to preference this list with the book that like books that are lower that you see that are lower. I'm not saying those books are bad at all. I don't think Nick Cutter has a bad book. I just think maybe comparatively to the other things, what has impacted me more personally, um, or what I think maybe has more wider reach, stuff like that. Because there is one real big outlier in his books, and that is, and then we're going to clear it now. The Troop is the big outlier, and it's in everybody's list for everything. There's reasons for that. But I think we're going to get started. So if you've never read one of Nick Cutter's books, they are very, I think the best way to describe his books are they're very gritty. It's all body horror. It's all very surreal. It's all very ew. It doesn't make you feel great. So that's just a preference, broad strokes of all of his books. I'm going to try to do this without spoiling much, but I'm ranting really bad. So let's go ahead and get started. I think number 5, we're going to pick The Queen. The Queen is not a bad book. I know it's at the bottom of the list, and I think people might argue that it probably is his weakest work. I wouldn't say it's weak. I think it's phenomenal. Without just pulling up the back of the book, you guys can read that. You guys aren't stupid. Essentially, a girl's best friend goes missing, and she receives a phone, and she's getting text from the friend, and tries to find, and it's like trying to find this friend, and the whole book is like an Easter egg hunt, and it's like revealing lore and text messages and seeing where she went. Horrific twists. It's called The Queen for a reason. There's bugs on the cover, you can just assume, but that's like the general arc of it. And as far as like personal impact, it showed a different perspective than what he usually writes. It actually showed the perspective of like a teen, like young adult girl, and some stuff that she might go through. Light spoiler for the book. I won't spoil it too hard, but it shows like her going to a party and like drinking and then having an interaction with a boy, and it kind of not great, but it shows those things that maybe I, as a man, don't have those kind of experiences with, and like those kind of perspectives. And I think it's really interesting that he wrote from it. If you're a woman who has read it, and if those are like very similar feelings, please let me know. But I think that's where I'm going to put it. I think it stands to be down here. Not down here, but I think that's where it is for me. So number 4, we're going to do The Deep. Now, I love this book. This, and to me, is his scariest book. Why? Because I don't like the fucking ocean. Okay, and that's the whole bit. This whole book takes place in the ocean, essentially, and like a whole like way deep under the ocean facility, trying to find a cure for this disease that's wiping out mankind, and it is bonkers. It's claustrophobic, but I'm putting it down here because there are other themes that I feel are better and maybe hit home a little more in his other books. This is definitely like, it's such a solid read. I super recommend it to anybody who's super like really likes abyssal horror and stuff like that. Like, the Deep. It's very good. Brief synopsis: two brothers, one brother super intelligent and is leading the charge on finding this cure that's wiping out humanity. He's the one in the underground because they have way in the deep, because they are able to find specific minerals to generate this thing, or like this cure, or work on it. And the other brother comes down because he is requested by the smart brother, and they, there's conflict and there's things, and it's very good. There's a lot of sibling tension. Nick Cutter definitely, I would assume, has siblings. The way I'm gathering this, and it's heartfelt in moments, and you can tell like this character, like the main character, really loves his brother, but his brother's so like he's one of those people who's so smart he's insane type of characters. Very good. Doesn't necessarily resonate a ton with me aside from Ocean bad, Ocean scary. But being an only child, I don't really have the brotherly thing, so it doesn't really connect with me on that level. Otherwise, the scares in this book, fucking phenomenal. If you're just reading it to be scared, this is a whole different list. But I think as far as like impact and scares and like the whole broad, I think it sits well at number 4. Number 3 comes his newest edition, The Dorians. Now, unlike these other books who I've read already, I've read all of them, obviously. The other books I've read a while ago. The Dorians I've read, like just got done reading like a book or 2 ago, and it's awesome. Loved this book. Because this book hasn't been out long, so I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who wants to read it. But the short version is a group of older folks, are on their deathbed, have all signed, I believe it's called a MAID. It's like a medical assistance in death or something like that. And they're pretty much assisted suicide. They're signed up for it. They're resigned to it. They're like, cool, take me out. And then they're like, but there's an opportunity that presents itself for them to essentially, maybe not, they might be able to live a lot longer than anticipated. And it is insane. The book is very eye-opening to some things, and it's I'm trying to say it without spoiling it, but it made me realize I don't want to live forever, and that I should be very okay and accept my own mortality. Because if that's the key to living forever, absolutely the fuck not. No, I'm not doing it. Same kind of premise. Almost as the deep. I feel like the deep and the Dorians have a very parallel like path. Like if the certain things were in works, I could see how the Dorians could almost be like a prequel to the Deep, or vice versa. They're, it could be pretty good. But that one resonated with me at home a little more, because obviously, like, everyone has a fear of their own mortality, right? Who doesn't? Like, think about it at night. I know I do. I'm sure you do. Nobody wants to do that. So I think at the number 3 spot, like right in the middle. Very good. It's not overtly scary. It's more of a brain, more of a thinker, not a scarer. It's quite good. Now at number 2, because if anyone's good at math, you can probably deduct what the first one is. But at number 2, I have Little Heaven. Now, Little Heaven, I would say, is Nick Cutter's most slept on work. Period. Full stop. And it is I think it is most unique compared to the rest of them. You can draw parallels between the rest. This one, not as much. For anybody who hasn't read Little Heaven and like a fan of his, I almost recommend reading it first, because it is so different. Essentially, 3 individuals have a very unlikely story of essentially making a deal with a devil and having some kind of trait that goes along with each one. And again, I'm trying to do this without spoiling, because it just sounds like I'm incoherently rambling, and I feel like I'm rambling, but it doesn't matter. And essentially they wind up in not a religious death cult, but it gets there, and it's insane. It is an insane read. The characters are so good and fleshed, not like the other ones aren't, but there's just something about this book that I like more than the rest. I'm not saying I don't like the other ones, obviously, because I'm not going to shit on Nick Cutter's work ever. I love his work. But Little Heaven is just its own. It's like its own thing. It's very cool and definitely one of my favorites. As far as like resonating with like personal things, there's not a whole lot. Mine is like some religious stuff. I love true crime and I love cults. So seeing like these like religious fanatical things, and it's very like parallel to like the big compounds that you see in like Waco or like Heaven's Gate and stuff like that. You get to see that a little more represented in this, which is kind of neat. Versus like, oh no, big scary monster, which this does have scary monsters. Believe it or not, is like cults, monsters, and people with like that supernatural power almost. It's insane. It is an insane read, and it is fucking depressing. It is so depressing. All the way to the end, you're like, oh my god, this is awful. And then it's worth your time. It's definitely his thickest work, I think. I think as far as page count, it is the highest, but very good. So here we are, the number one spot, which everyone knows, and it's The Troop. Now, I pick The Troop, not because I feel it's his best. It only resonates with me the most because I spent the majority of my life, up to now, I'm 30, in Boy Scouts. I spent the time from 7 years old as a Cub Scout all the way till I was 19 years old. So whatever that math is, 12 years, whatever. As a Boy Scout, spending time outdoors in troops and like doing these things. In this book is an entire dynamic for young boys, like young teenage boys who are like coming into themselves in a very vulnerable place, and something really fucking awful happens while they're all on this camping trip. It is a nightmare fest. It is gross. It is buggy, and it shows like the horrors of humanity and the horrors of Nick Cutter's brain all together. I think it is one of his most well-rounded horror books. And I think that's why it's probably the most popular. It's the most like, shock value isn't the right word, because a lot of his books have shock value. But this book definitely is just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It just like keeps going. And it is just I think I read somewhere that it's like Lord of the Flies meets something, and it definitely, like Lord of the Flies meets The Thing, and that's kind of what it feels like. And I think as far as like his style, I think The Troop definitely nails it. I feel like The Troop, The Deep, and The Queen are all kind of in their own, like, you can draw the lines between them, and like, this is a common theme, this is a common theme, this is a common theme. The Dorians has a little bit of it, but it's a little separated. The Dorians and The Troop both take place on an island, and there's like, whatever. But I think what the Troop achieves that the Dorians don't is like, this is all dread, baby. All dread. And these are young kids who don't experience life, whereas the Dorians characters are like, these are old people who have experienced life and maybe get a chance to experience it again. I don't know where I'm going with that, truly, but it's just the Troop is the most accessible work. It is his most popular, and that is why it's his number one on my list, because it is the most prolific book that he has under Nick Cutter. He has his own penmanship and like their own pen names of like different genres. As far as horror goes, which is what we like here. This is my ranking of Nick Cutter books. Now, if we're talking like, I'll give you guys a brief list of like what I think is the most scary, it probably is almost flip flopped all the way around. Uh, the Queen's premise is so fucking nasty, and if I would rather not. The Deep also would rather not. The Dorians is probably the least scary and more just no, thank you. Little Heaven, depending what you find scary, if you have like a lot of religious trauma, that the Little Heaven is probably way too much. And The Troop generally is just disgusting. And I think that one is the most scary to me. Because I've been there. I've been there. I've been those kids. Like, in that exact kind of environment. Just out in the woods with your boys, your scoutmaster, and just it all goes wrong. Not to this extent, obviously, but no, I'm really rambling. But thank you for watching. Even if it sucked, thank you for watching. If you guys want more content that's a little different than like reviews and stuff, let me know. I really enjoy this kind of stuff. And, you know, if maybe I'll branch out. Like I've been reading, like everybody else in the fucking world right now, I've been reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm on book 4. I'm halfway there, baby. It's phenomenal, by the way. I think most people should read that. I also just finished reading Rosemary's Baby, which was also one of the most phenomenal reads I've ever had. So there's a lot of things I want to do, but I don't have the time for. Or I do have the time for, but I just don't know what to do with it. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Thank you guys for being here and watching. I appreciate all of you. And until next time, peace. Graphic or something of like, oh, number 5.